You're listening to the #1 real estate podcast in the world, where we talk with real estate professionals all across North America about your wins, losses, lessons, and stories, help you win in your local market today. My name is Cody from Sheridan Street. I'm joined with Vikram Deol of the Real Estate Sales Academy. Vikram, how you doing? Before we intro our guest, where are you at in the world? Are you still where I think you are? Are you down the road? What's happening in your world? What's happening in life?
Cody, I'm actually under your bed with a knife. Oh. Just waiting for you to fall asleep later on.
Okay.
Oh, thank you. That's kind of creepy.
That's
Hey, I'm curious. We say it's the #1 real estate agent podcast, but do we ever say the name of our podcast in the intro?
I said the R Agent Podcast.
Did you say it?
I think I said it.
I'm going on like 30 hours of no food right now, and
how are you feeling? Are you fasting?
It just happened accidentally. I hurt my shoulder the other day, and it's been really bad. And so whenever I get hurt, I accidentally go on like a long fast because I try not to eat dinner so that the body starts to heal itself. And then once you're going, you just kind of don't stop. So I think if we meet up for dinner tonight, since I'm under your bed, I think that will be when I break the fast. Yeah,
you're gonna break the fast. You're gonna get a nice big steak.
That I will. That's
okay.
I would eat some liver, but not a lot of places serve liver.
Yeah, not here. Yeah. But today,
what are you up to right now? Yeah, what are you doing right now?
I'm in Medellin. Like I'm looking outside and it looks like a rainforest, kind of where I live, which is always exciting and always fun. Yeah, things are good, man. I'm just excited to not be traveling for at least for the next month, to just be kind of stationary and. Like if I don't have to see a plane for the next 30 days, like I'm completely okay with that. But yeah, I'm just working on situating my apartment and my living space in Marina Del Rey. But in the meantime, I figure I'm not going back to Canada. It's way too cold there right now. Yeah. So I thought I would pop in, see you, hang out in Medellin, and enjoy the Colombian life.
I think Dan wants to hear the story about me freaking out, thinking that you had disappeared on me last week. Have we shared that story yet?
I don't think we shared that story yet.
Dan, so Dan's listening in, and so he can comment as we give him an intro here in a second. Yeah. So we're in Colombia, and we work on the buddy system, right? Like I always am like, hey, it's just how I always have been with my friends and family, especially traveling abroad. And Cody's like kind of Canadian. He kind of stands out. He hasn't quite got the Colombian tan yet. Not yet. And Cody's on a date with this really weird girl, like a really weird girl. I'm on a date with this really awesome girl that's not weird. And she shows up like an hour and a half later. I'm like, dude, ditch this girl. She's so weird. Even my date was like, this girl's super weird. And she never says anything about anybody. And Cody's like, oh, no, whatever. Like, okay, I'm going to ditch her. So we're waiting for our reservation. My girl and I walk up the street, sit down at this little cafe, bar, whatever. And I look back and it's been like a couple of minutes and I was like, Cody, we're going to like ditch the girl and we're going to go up there and wait for the reservation. And Cody's like, all right, cool. And I wait for like 2 minutes. We order a couple of things. Cody's nowhere to be found. Dan, I am worried about Cody. So I walk back to the front of the restaurant and there's no Cody. And so I call him. Dan, we're in Colombia, right? So I call Cody. Cody doesn't pick up the phone. I'm like, oh my God, this chick is super weird. She like mugged, raped, taking Cody's internal intestines out. Like, what the fudge is going on? Call Cody again. He doesn't answer. Then Cody sends me a text message like 3 minutes later. I walk back. I'm like, I don't know where Cody is. And my friend's like, well, what do you mean? I was like, I don't know where Cody is. She's like, well, he can't just disappear. I'm like, he's gone. Like, I walked down the street. I walked up the street. There's no Cody. So Cody texts me like 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes later. I'm sweating bullets. And he's like, yo, bro, we just went up to the street. We're going to grab food and drinks, whatever. She's all right. And I'm like, bro. Come on.
You got a good friend here, Cody.
I do.
Buddy system. Then it gets even worse. So then he texts me at like 11:45. Dan, this is true. I can't make this shit up. He texts me at 11:45. He's like, yo, I'm out here with these random people that we met last night. We're at, they're having some drinks. Cody was still doing 75 hearts. I know he's not drinking. And so he's not drinking. And he's like, so I'm hanging out with these guys. Come down the street. I'm like, nah, bro, it's way past my bedtime. I'm going to sleep. So we leave and I'm like, just text me when you get home, share your WhatsApp location. He shares the exact location of where he is. He doesn't share his location to where he's going. So it's like a snapshot. I'm like, I wait. So like, Cody's traveled around enough. Like he's pretty good, even though he doesn't have the Colombian tan. So the next morning I wake up, it's like 9:30 and there's no Cody. And I was like, I check my phone. There's no messages. I look on Instagram. He's not online. I start doing all the stalking. And I'm like, where the fudge is Cody? Dan, I don't know where he was at, but my friend, she looked at the thing. She's like, oh, he's at some like whatever bar. It's not like a bar that we had been to. It's not like on the main strip. It's like a whatever bar. I'm like, okay, where the hell is Cody? He has his phone next to him, but he doesn't pick it up. I call him 37,000 times.
Probably a lot of times, but like, let me preface the fact that my phone was on sleep.
I should be a favorite. That should double ring. Yeah, and I know we're digressing from the I know we're digressing from the story.
The sleep mode on the phone. Anyways, like I'll finish the story and then we'll actually intro our guest here. But,
Jesus,
you know,
I just want you guys to know what we go through on a daily basis to bring you the best real estate content.
Just incredible.
He called me 37 times. He showed up at my apartment, slamming on my door, ringing the doorbell. Thought I was dead, but you know that's the sign of a true friend.
So,
the sign of a true friend is somebody that will slam on your door, ring your doorbell, try to convince the property maintenance manager to kick the door down to see if I'm in my apartment.
Kick the door down. I literally translated kick the door in.
Yeah. So
anyways,
I have a piece of content coming out about that specific story because it was hilarious.
I better get a tag in it. I better get a tag.
Don't you worry. You're gonna be giving a shout out. But
all right, and there's our podcast episode.
Exactly. So speaking of content, we have a guest, Dan Parker, today, and he's going to chat with us all about YouTube content. Chat with us about what he's doing in Real Brokers. We got originally connected through Sharon Srivatsa, you know, my mentor, my good friend, colleague, and whenever we get to chat with people that are connected with Sharon, I'm always excited because you know, when you're connected with Sharon, you share this similar ethos to life, to business. And Dan, I'm so excited to have you on the show today. Really excited to hear from you. I know that you're going to share a ton of value around YouTube, a ton of value around content creation today and what you're doing in your local market in order to win. Why don't you, for people that don't know who you are, why don't you give us a high-level overview and kind of like who you are, where you're at in the world, how long you've been in real estate, and kind of like what you're up to right now in the market, San Diego.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, you guys. And you're absolutely right. I mean, anyone that I'm connected to via Sharon, it's always a special connection. He's an incredible person, and you know, a force to be someone that you really aspire to be like in this industry. So that's awesome. So I'm here in sunny San Diego. I've been in the real estate industry for about 6 years. I have a small team of 5, and we're the Best Life Home team. And really, we run our business off of attraction marketing, specifically YouTube, and then we kind of break down what we're doing on YouTube and blast it across a bunch of other platforms. So last year here in San Diego, I was top 3% of agents here in San Diego, and 63% of our my deals came directly from YouTube. So that is something that's working really, really well for us. And now we're trying to figure out how can we continue the growth and continue based on what we started. By exploring some different avenues and creating some verticals off of what we're already making.
Well, I mean, if you guys haven't heard from the sound quality, he's clearly taking this to a next level. He's not playing around, right? And I think what we should talk about, we were going to get into childhood trauma, Dan, but I think we should talk about some more stuff around your YouTube and how you're really monetizing, because a lot of people produce content, and this seems to be the day of content for us. A lot of people produce content, Dan, but they don't have a strategy. They don't have, I don't even know what the word vertical means. I think that was like something we use, like, what's your vertical jump? So I think we need to start to unpack a lot of this stuff for our agents out there that are listening, that are thinking about dabbling, and they look at our content and they're like, oh, well, you guys have these microphones and headphones and cameras and lights and all this stuff. But I don't think that's probably where you started. So why don't we dive into a couple of quick questions of how long have you been producing content for seriously? And then what would be like a beginning step, because you have a team of 5, so I'm sure your agents come to you because of your attraction-based model. I would assume that they see you online, they're like, this guy sounds cool. He looks cool. Like, I like him. Maybe I want to get to know him a little bit. So tell us about how long you've been doing YouTube for seriously, and then maybe like what is a quick step for a newer agent on YouTube, not a new agent in general, but a newer agent on the channel to kind of start.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been doing YouTube, I would say the right way, in quotes. I've been doing that for probably about 3.5 years, something along those lines. probably maybe getting close to 4 years now. And, for someone that wants to get started, yes, there's a lot of content out there across platforms, right? I think YouTube is the best way to go for a couple of different reasons. One of them being on these other platforms, if you're making a 30-second video and on average people are watching 50% of that, they're blasting through your video and going on to the next one right away. You're barely a thought in their mind. If you're doing a 10-minute YouTube video and people are watching 50% of that, they're watching 5 minutes of you talking. And you're educating them on something specific to your market or to buying real estate, things like that. The power that comes in real estate, there's a couple different ways that you can go to be really successful on the channel. And, exactly like you were saying, it's not because I have this fancy camera. It's not because I have this fancy microphone. Of course, I have those things now, but it was a slow upgrade, one thing at a time. My first, I don't know, probably 30 to 40 videos were all shot on my iPhone. That's how I figured out how to storytell. That's how I figured out how to create a rhythm, how I figured out how to talk into a camera, all those different elements. And the way that you start out by being successful is by figuring out, who are you talking to? What are your videos going to be about? And one of the most successful and easily repeatable models is they have a channel about relocation, about relocating to your area. Because guess what? I live in San Diego. What do people think of when they think of San Diego and living in San Diego? They think it's expensive. I'm sure like a dozen things pop in your head, but like they think that it's expensive. They want to know about the cost of living. They want to know about the pros and cons. They want to know what neighborhoods to live in. These are all the questions that come in people's minds when they're thinking about relocation, whether that's because of work or family or just desiring a better life. And so they're typing these questions, these queries into Google. They're typing them into YouTube. And that's where you're going to start to get your exposure. And that's where you could start to get some momentum. So you become the specialist on relocation to your area. Now, again, there are a couple different routes that you could go down, but that's what my channel is based off of. And that's, I think, the most easily repeatable type of model.
I love that. And we chatted earlier today, like you said, Vic, this is a day of like content creation.
Sure.
And I really want to go really tactical with you today, because I think that there's definitely things that you're doing locally that most agents that might be starting on YouTube or even like thinking about YouTube, maybe they've started, but they don't know the right things to do. Like, can we talk about tech stack really quick here? And let's maybe go tactical. Like, what are some programs you're using in order to rank your videos better? Like we chatted earlier about today about, getting started, and like, what are some things that you're doing that you're seeing is working really well right now? And in order to rank your videos, are there softwares you're using, softwares that we should be considering as real estate agents in order to get in front of those people properly with the right questions? Because they have questions, but we need to create the right videos in order to get in front of them. Like, what are what's some of your advice around that?
No, there are not programs that I would recommend. No, I don't use any programs I don't do analysis when it comes to like SEO and keywords and all that stuff. And I'll tell you why here in a second. There are programs like TubeBuddy and Keywords Everywhere. There's Modern Fame. There's a handful of programs that can help. I use TubeBuddy for, sometimes I'll do, like you can test 2 different thumbnails and see which has a better click-through rate. Here's the thing. I think a lot of people get stuck in this trap of spending so much time obsessing over how can they stack as many keywords and really optimize the SEO for their video. And ultimately, that is less important than figuring out or just realizing we say algorithm all the time, this YouTube algorithm that's trying to push your video in front of other people. Remove the word algorithm and think people. How can I formulate this thumbnail in this title in a way that is going to get a person interested in your video enough to click on it and then make the video interesting enough throughout the entire video to where they're watching a high percentage of that video. If you do those 2 things, you're going to get put in front of a lot of people. So I talked about the method of getting those searches, right? Like that is a good way to start because YouTube is trying to figure out who to put your videos in front of. But ultimately, a lot of the majority of views through YouTube are not people going in and searching. It's when someone goes to the platform and 15 videos pop up as thumbnails on their home screen, and one of them is so enticing, they totally forgot what they were going on there to search about, and they clicked on that to watch that video. So you can use TubeBuddy, you can use Keywords Everywhere, you could use Modern Fame, you can use all those programs. You could try them out, but do not over obsess about them. Figure out who your videos are for and try to make videos for those people, and you're going to win.
So let's go down the track of figuring out who your videos are for, because that's what was, our last guest, Cameron, talked about the same thing. He said, the first thing we got to do is figure out who we're talking to, who's our audience. So how would you take somebody new on the platform, or maybe even somebody who's been on the platform for a while that's not having the result and success that they want? How would you take them down to find out? Because, it's one thing to say, find the audience that you want to talk about. Like, oh my God, what the frick does that even mean, Vikram? Like, so Dan, let's unfrick that for people.
Yeah. And I think you do need to figure out who your audience is and figure out who your ideal avatar is so that you can talk to that person. And the two biggest tips I can give is, one, like I said, my recommendation for most people, have a relocation channel. So your audience is going to be people relocating to San Diego. That clarifies the message a lot. Once you have that in mind, then the next thing to think about is like, okay, well, if I could visualize this person, if I could go to lunch with this person, what would they be like? What would their interests be? A lot of times it's similar to what our interests are. It's similar to where we're living. It's similar to the price point of home that we live in. Or maybe the next step up of the price of homes that we want to live in. But like, for example, I'm in San Diego. The median single family home is $900,000. So I'm not going to make videos on here are the cheapest single family homes in San Diego, because that's not who I want to sell homes to. I want to sell people that are just over the median price point. So I know that those videos will get clicks, they will get views, but ultimately I want the clients that can get median price point to 25% over. That's kind of my sweet spot. But you can dial it in even more than that. And I think some of this comes from having a channel for a little while and starting to see who are the people that are reaching out to you. My avatar, his name is Matt. He's a newly married guy that they don't have kids yet, but maybe in the near future. And they're a lot of times in tech, they're working remote. And I've really dialed it into, I want to visualize who that person is so I could feel like I'm talking to that person.
When you came up with Matt as the avatar, that person, that tech guy, newly married, how did you decide that was going to be your niche? Because I think a lot of people get stuck and they get hung up on niche, especially when creating content, because they're like, well, if I only market to Matt, then what about Susie over here? Like, what if I miss the opportunity because I've focused all my effort into Matt? Like, what is like kind of some of your philosophy around the YouTube marketing and just around marketing in general? How did you come up with Matt? How does somebody find a niche? How do they stick to a niche? Like, what are some of your ethos around that?
Yeah, this is one of the most difficult things I think in business. When you own a business, when you're trying to market a business, is to really hone in on one specific niche, one specific person. It's difficult because we think in our minds, if we're messaging to everybody, then we have so much more opportunity. But the three of us, we know that's not how it works. The more that you can dial it in and really have a message for a specific type of person, then the more of those people are going to raise their hand and say, I need help. So, yes, it's definitely not my specialty by any means, but luckily you figure this out once and hopefully you can stick to that and not have to move from there. So like for me, for example, like I said, I think it can be valuable to like maybe get going a little bit first before you really dial this in. For myself, I don't have kids. And when I've been making these videos, I started to realize that those were the majority of people that reached out, either like a very young kid or newly married and no kids yet. So it would be silly for me to say, oh yeah, I'm going to specialize in young families with 2 kids, because that's not who my videos are for right now. My friend Burr McGovern, he's here in San Diego. He does specialize more in families with kids or older kids or, parents with older kids that have moved out and then they want to kind of like downsize but live in a nicer area. So, yeah, I mean, it takes a little bit of time. It takes a little bit of thought. It takes a little bit of opportunities to like sit down and just really dive into the thought process on these.
That's so funny that you found that out by just watching not your analytics, but just watching your conversations. And when I sold real estate in Bellevue, I happened to become the first time home buyer for tech people, but for families, even though I was single. And it was funny because I was like, would you move into this house? I'm like, no, of course I would never move here. Like, that would be stupid. I'm single. Like, I want to be around girls. Like, I don't want to be in the suburbs around you guys with your kids. Like, screaming at 7 o'clock in the morning. Like I want to be around girls screaming at 7 o'clock in the morning. Like, so it's funny how that just kind of works itself out. So when I wrote down something, your avatar is Matt, right? And you said that by just turning on the camera, you learn how to become a storyteller and you learn the power of storytelling. And I think a lot of real estate agents that are, making high 5 figures, low 6 figures, mid 6 figures are decent storytellers. What would be like maybe 3 things you would tell to one of your agents that was starting to dive into YouTube to tell stories? Like, is there a structure you follow? Is there like a opening, a middle, and then an end? Like, is there something that you are following, like, so that they can start to like, okay, if I put a bullet point here about this, a bullet point here about this, and a bullet point here about this, it will actually get them to the point of whiteboarding a couple of concepts so they can actually turn on the camera?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple of different approaches. I think one of the biggest assets you can have is just by putting in some work. Just start making some videos and start consuming other content, not just real estate agents. Look at some of the best YouTubers out there. Look at, gosh, I'm blanking on everybody's name. Look at Mr. Beast. Look at Meet Kevin. Meet at Graham Stephan. Watch some of their content and see how the flow goes. A lot of it's actually going to be on the editing end, which is why I recommend start outsourcing that as soon as possible to someone that's better than you at it, because they can start to create a story based off of the music that they use, based off the transitions, based off of the B-roll. So that could be very, very helpful. One of the biggest tips I can give on this is gone are the days where there's this long drawn out intro and you have this big old trailer at the beginning of every single video that's completely consistent. You want all that gone. You want to get into the information as fast as possible. So when I'm doing a video, it's going to be a strong hook. That's usually 1 sentence, if not maybe 2 sentences. Then I say, my name's Dan Park with the Best Life Home Team, your San Diego real estate resource. Super quick, super simple. And then I get right into the topic. When I started, what I noticed was I felt like I was doing a hook. I was doing a pitch about reaching out to me, and then I was finishing the intro. And by the time I got to the topic, it was like 1.5 minutes in, and that's crazy. It felt like it to me. It felt like it was 20 seconds. But when I actually watched it and looked at the time, it was 1.5 minutes getting into the topic. And nobody watching a video wants to wait 1.5 minutes to get an answer to the question that they have in their head when they looked at your thumbnail and when they looked at your video subject. So quick hook to draw them in, maybe a quick intro. Sometimes I don't even do an intro on myself. I think get right into the topic so that you can give them the value. Because here's the thing, I get this question all the time. Dan, what is the number 1 video you can make? What are the number 1 video to get leads in? And that's the wrong question. And I'll tell you why, because every single person that reaches out, that picks up the phone and calls me and says, Dan, I am a fan of your YouTube channel. You know what they say next? It isn't, I watched X video. It's, I've watched every single one of your videos. And it's getting to the point where that's probably completely unrealistic, but in their heads, that's what they think. And they've watched me for hours and hours because it's value upon value upon value upon value. So if every video you're not doing, 3 calls to action, that's okay. Because people are burnt out with that shit. You want to create value. You want to be the trusted resource. And then what I like to do is I will do a quick little mention about me being a real estate agent. I also really enjoy once I make the template for my video, like what I'm going to talk about, then I have a couple bullet points of like, am I going to do a call to action for something free that I'm giving away? Add in some type of story for me personally or for my clients. That's a very easy way to remind people you're a real estate agent and to tell a story. So when you're talking about a topic, actually add a little bit of context for something that you're talking about by telling them how you helped a similar client in that scenario without being salesy. So those are some good tips. This is a topic you can just dive into like crazy, but getting started, get in those hours, get in that practice, and just continuously think about these different things and continuously improve.
I love the idea of storytelling because like I especially adding, I tell my clients all the time, like, especially when we're running ads for them, that there's not like telling stories or having people talk about their experience with you, like video testimonials, or even like you dropping in, verbal case studies about, examples of clients that you won, can be super, super powerful. So I love that you threw that in there in regards to like the content you're creating, where it's like, hey, I'm helping other top clients do this, or help my client Tom, accomplish this thing. That can be super powerful. Those verbal case studies, I love that. When somebody is creating content, Dan, when somebody is one of the issues I think that a lot of real estate agents struggle with like creating content, especially for YouTube, is like, I hear often, oh, it's a saturated market on YouTube. I'm not going to get a crazy amount of views, or how am I going to get in front of the right people? I know for us, we've been seeing a lot of success personally with YouTube Shorts. So I'm curious to kind of like what your opinion is on like how often a real estate agent should be considering posting long form video. Should they be utilizing YouTube Shorts? Like, what are some things and some strategies that you're implementing in 2023 in order to kind of like expand the reach for your channel?
What's funny is we look at, yes. Are there more agents on YouTube today? Absolutely. Is it a little bit harder to get your foot off the ground and start to gain an audience? Absolutely. But we don't think about that when we think of door knocking, or we think about Instagram videos, or we think about cold calling, or we think about open houses. Oh my gosh, there's so many agents doing open houses. It's not gonna work for me. And so yes, maybe there is a little bit of a different strategy that you need to have in mind, but you need to be tenacious. A lot of people, if you look at San Diego real estate agents doing YouTube, when I started, there were 3 of us. Right now, there's probably over 100 agents that have done these similar style videos. But out of those 100, how many have continued after 6 months or after their third video?
Yeah.
Like 5.
Dan Parker.
So what happens is someone watches one of those other videos, and then when they're done with that video, guess whose video gets recommended to them? Mine. Because that person doesn't have any more videos to recommend to them. And nobody's going to make a call based off of one video. Very few people are going to make a call based off of one video that they watched. So don't worry too much about that. We're in real estate. We're in a tough business. We're in a highly competitive business. In my market, there are 2,000 homes for sale and 30,000 real estate agents. It is super tough to make it in this industry here in San Diego. So are you going to have competition on YouTube? Yes, absolutely. Is it as easy as it was 3 years ago? No, it's not as easy, but we knew that 3 years ago. We knew that those were the days that were going to be a little bit easier. We knew it wasn't going to last. And so the strategy that you need to have today is starting a channel, really hone in on who your audience is and what your content pillars are going to be. What type of content are you going to make? And start out with 2 videos a week. There are ways that you can do this that you can make it very, very easy without having to do a lot of editing. And what that's going to do, it's going to get you really good at being on camera. It's going to get you really good at figuring out what types of videos people like, and it's going to jumpstart your channel like crazy. So starting with 2 channels a week, and then eventually you could get to the point where you're maybe doing 1 like edited video a week, and then something else that's either not edited or live video or something like that.
I'm checking out your page, and you are sub 10K followers right now, which is, for people that are trying to build a YouTube, like getting your first thousands a lot, getting to 10,000s a lot, especially when you're so niched into like a specific demographic and type of content you're producing. So like, great job there. Kudos to you. Obviously you're consistent, but you also said you brought in almost 70% of your business last year from this YouTube channel. And I think it just, I think it's important for people to hear this, because you don't have 100,000 followers. Your videos aren't like 50,000, 100,000, 500. You might have some like that, but most of your videos are a few thousand views. You're not 100,000 followers, and you're still crushing it off of your YouTube game. And what people don't realize, and maybe this is what you're talking about with the verticals, but you guys, once somebody's your client, if you do email campaign, like what, I just went on a blank. If you do email sprinkler for life, right? If you have lifetime nurture, you do some events, you take care of those people should be able to transact with you once or twice, 3 times more. And they should be able to refer to you 2 or 3, 4, 5 people over the course of your relationship. And it all came from free organic content. So that one video, and your average, let's use a 2 to 3% commission, your average commission somewhere between $18,000 and $27,000. On the low side, on the high side, it's upwards of $40,000. You guys, there's a lot of money to be made in this YouTube stuff, right? There's a lot of opportunity. to make hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, depending on where you're at. And so I just wanted to kind of drop that in there because, when did you start seeing some results off of YouTube? Like, when was it like, you're like, oh crap, this stuff actually works? Was it like 6 months?
Your first video? Was it your first video? Like you made a $40,000 commission check out of the first video?
Cody, that's only you, bro.
Yeah,
but no, like that's a great question. Like, when did you start to make money where you're like, I'm going to go all in?
Yeah. And I think we get stuck on the vanity metrics. Well, how many subscribers, how many views? Like it's easy to get excited about those things. But the reality is I have my buddy Misha Thompson out in Warner Robins, Georgia, which has a population, I think I want to say 60,000. So it's pretty low. We have 3.35 million people here in San Diego. And so it took him forever to get to 1,000 subscribers. But when he wasn't even at 1,000 subscribers, he was still closing 40 deals a year because he had the right audience. And that's what's really, really important.
From YouTube.
From YouTube. Yep. Yep.
You guys, you probably should just tune out now. This is all a gimmick. Don't get on the YouTube. It's a gimmick.
Yeah. So for me, it took a year to close my first deal. Leads were coming in before that, but it took a little bit longer than most people that I talk to in the industry. And sometimes that'll happen depending on what market you're in. I live in a market that a lot of people want to live in, but very few can afford to live in. So I think it took a little bit longer, but there was never a second of doubt in my mind. I was 100% committed when I started because I knew it was either making videos, cold calling, or door knocking, and I knew which two of those I did not want to do. I knew that this was a proven model. I knew that I was going to succeed at it, and I was just, whether it was a smart thing or a dumb thing, like I just put my head down and I just kept going because I knew it was going to work out.
What I love about what you just said there was I knew it was going to have to be one of the three. The door knocking, the cold calling, or the YouTube videos. And I think so many realtors get hung up on the fact that they're like, because they might say like door knocking doesn't work, or cold calling doesn't work, or ads don't work, or YouTube doesn't work. It's like, we've been doing these podcasts long enough to show you that like open houses work. We've done podcasts around open houses. We've shown you now YouTube works. It just works. It all takes time, skill, and volume. Where does somebody learn, or where did you learn, or what content are you consuming right now? Like, did you take a course in order to learn how to do YouTube? How have you been able to progress over the years in the YouTube space in order to become a better YouTuber today?
There's a lot of ways, right? Like there's a lot of free resources out there. There's a Facebook group called YouTube for Real Estate Agents. There is Daryl Leaves. He's like the master of YouTube, and he has not for real estate agents, but just in general, he has a bunch of different trainings out there. He has a book out there that I'd highly recommend reading. And then what I'd highly, highly recommend is find some other people that are as motivated as you to get going on YouTube and become accountability partners. And every single week, share thumbnails, share subjects, share videos so that you can help each other grow. Because a lot of times, especially in the beginning, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so good. Like this video is awesome. This thumbnail is awesome. And then someone else will look at it and be like, try and make this one tweak. And that one tweak will make it the world of difference. So get connected with other people that are at your level and watch what other people are doing at higher levels as well. I had a lot of free resources starting out. So I give out a lot of free resources right now as well. So we have we have a monthly mastermind that I do with Bern McGovern. Like I said, he's here in San Diego. And we have a podcast called the Content Agent Podcast that we did for 2 years, and we actually kind of morphed it into this mastermind. But all that is free information that's out there.
My man, Dan, you're killing the game. If somebody were to want to find you, if you guys haven't already checked them out on YouTube and subscribed, but if somebody wanted to reach out to you, what's the best avenue for them to reach out to you? Because YouTube's a little hard for messages.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, here's the reality is on YouTube, we want our potential clients to be the ones subscribing and watching our videos. So I know people go out and watch my videos, and that's totally fine. But definitely follow me on Instagram, Dan P, Best Life SD, and I'm more than happy to interact with you on there.
My man, Dan. Hey, dude. I knew you were gonna bring the fire when Sharon's like, "Yo, you got to get my boy Dan on." I knew you were gonna bring the fire. We totally appreciate you being here and sharing so much. And I guess we should wrap it up, Cody. This is Cody's job. I just took it over.
Yeah,
today.
I know. He took over. Usually I wrap up the show, but you just you wanted to hop in here and I was waiting for you to wrap up the show.
I think I'm hungry right now, bro.
You're hungry.
Yeah.
You're a little bit nauseous right now. But Dan, I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Just sharing so much wisdom and so much knowledge around YouTube. And I want to encourage you guys, go out there, wherever you're at in your real estate business. YouTube works. Cold calling works, door knocking works, it all works. It's all going to take time, skill, and volume. Dan, I want to say thank you. And I want to say thank you for tuning into another episode of the RE Agent Podcast, the #1 podcast in the world. We'll see you soon.